I was curious. I teach a course, and this last week's discussion was
Hey.
Commissioners Court of Brazos County will meet regular session on February the 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Commissioners Courtroom of the County Administration Building, 200 South Texas Avenue, Suite 106. First item on the agenda is the invocation and pledge of allegiance to the U.S. and Texas flag. Commissioner Brown will lead those.
Heavenly Father, we've got a big agenda today, and I tell you what, we really need your peace, we need your understanding, and we need your wisdom as we make decisions that affect the lives of the people that we represent. Lord, there's a lot of places you could have put all of us, but thank you for putting us in the best county, in the best state, and the best country in the world. As we go through our agenda today, may all the decisions that we make be pleasing to you. For it's in your precious name I pray, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes. If the judge will allow me, I want to make one quick statement. My wife dressed me this morning, and she said real men are not scared to wear pink. So,
All right.
That doesn't explain the pink sedan outside.
Okay. We'll move on to number 2 is call for citizens' input and our concerns, and we've got 4, I believe. Mark Holtzap.
Howdy, my name is Mark Holtzapfel. I'm a professor of chemical engineering at Texas A&M University, and I'm speaking today as a private citizen, and I do not claim to represent the public. I'm here as an individual who is concerned about election integrity, both nationwide and in our community. In my presentations to the county commissioners, I have discovered numerous like-minded individuals who have similar concerns. We have documented our concerns in a 50-page report and a press release that have been previously provided to the county commissioners. I will not take the time to repeat our concerns again. My reason for speaking today is to describe how our concerns have been addressed by our election officials. In my world of science and engineering, when we have issues, the facts are presented, and we discuss them with our colleagues in a civil manner until we get resolution. This is how science and engineering progresses. This is the approach that is responsible for all the tremendous advances we have in our modern quality of life. I am not a political person. In my whole life, I have never run for office, nor have I been active in politics. The only reason I speak before the county commissioners is to discuss election integrity. It is my desire to increase trust in our election system, which is the foundation of our democratic republic. In my interactions with the county election officials, I have observed that issues are not addressed according to the methods used in science and engineering. I have seen very little one-on-one engagement with election officials to resolve issues starting from a factual basis. Instead, I have seen election officials go to the press and attack me and my fellow citizens. In an article by Natalia Contreras, published in VoteBeat and the Texas Tribune, we have been characterized as follows: right-wing skeptics, liars, promoters of election conspiracies, and well-intended but wrong. Natalia has ignored numerous attempts to provide our side of the story. In a radio interview on WTAW, our concerns have been characterized as follows: myths, misunderstandings, and misinterpretations. In this interview, it was stated that we claim to represent the voters of Brazos County. However, we have never made that claim. We represent ourselves and we are only here to provide citizen feedback and our technical expertise. Our sole goal is to improve election integrity. Our intention has always been to serve as partners. Instead, we are treated as adversaries through one-sided press stories. This approach does not instill confidence in our election system. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Hall.
Judge Peters, Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Karen Hall, and the topic today for me is the medians on Texas Avenue. I know that you did not have anything to do with installing them. That is all on Brian. They wanted them, they hired the consulting firm, and then TxDOT basically provided the bricks, the cement, and the labor. That is, it's a little more complicated than that, but that's kind of a good summary, sort of the cliff notes of what happened out there. Now, you might be able to help us get some of them removed or modified. The reason you may want to help is that sales are down, ergo, sales taxes are down. More importantly, every piece of property on that 5-mile stretch has lost value. We're recommending that they talk to the appraisal districts, but that means less property taxes. As businesses close, no new businesses are going in. They're aware they can't, it's a location. Now, I asked TxDOT about the possibility of removing all of the medians, and they had a very swift response. That is not going to happen. However, they are willing to look at the problem and the possibilities of some modifications. Maybe they'll take some out, we don't know. But they would like very much to have input from the city of Bryan. So far, we have been unable to get Bryan to either talk to us or, more importantly, to talk to TxDOT. So if any of you have any influence with the mayor or the city council, please help before Texas Avenue looks like Detroit. I do need to apologize. I have an 11 o'clock appointment. I feel that anyone who comes here and wants you to listen to my problems, I should stay and listen to all of yours, but I have to make this appointment. But I don't have to leave right now. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Kathy Veens.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Hope you all had a nice weekend. I'm here on a number of different topics. Some of them touch on agenda items, and rather than jumping up and speaking to each individual agenda item, I'm just going to address it here. Maybe when you get there, you can touch those topics. The first one came to mind last week's agenda. I didn't speak about it, but it brought up a question in my mind, and it's in regard to the Expo Center. And it didn't dawn on me that the county owns the Expo Center and runs it. And it's been said in this court that we don't make a profit on any kind of enterprise that the county runs. And I can't help but wonder, why is the county buying and operating businesses that suppress the opportunity for private enterprises to come in? Like the Expo Center, it's also a tax loss because we could be earning property taxes. We could sell it or somehow supervise it or hold control over it. And that brings up the pickleball court that College Station is talking about turning Macy's building into, because there's a private company that's coming in May that's a pickleball court, and when the city or the county runs a business in competition with private citizens, I think that's wrong. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Anyway, in the redistricting of the precincts, that's in the Texas Election Code 42031, it needs to be done soon. If I'm not mistaken, it was not done in 2021 or in 2023. I think you can confirm that. So it really needs to be done. We do not meet the qualifications that that the code requires. The one for having a population of less than 100, we have a number of precincts with fewer than 100, and we have we're not supposed to be over 5,000. We only have one right now that doesn't meet that. I wanted to ask about this HART contract, which has come up before, and it really irritates me that the public is not allowed to see that, and that the county has entwined their responsibilities to protect a private company over the interests of the citizens and understanding how that system works. I wanted, on items 18 and 19, I was wondering if my Commissioner Watson could bring up and discuss how it comes to pass that we have, or how it makes sense for employees to be assigned to a committee to choose the study being done on pensions and benefits. It seems contradictory input. And as far as that goes, I want to remind you, I keep asking you to volunteer with Meals on Wheels, and I keep asking them every week, has anybody contacted you from the court that's volunteering even just 1 hour a month? And they said no. And so I would implore you all to get involved with Meals on Wheels. Serve 1 hour a month is not a lot to ask. Meet people in their homes, see how your actions in this court affect every single person. See them in their homes, especially the neediest among us, and what influence you're having that you're not even aware of. And lastly, I wanted to mention, I don't know if any of you have committed to coming to the East Loop meeting on Monday, February 10th from 6 to 8:30 at the Bryan High School. Somebody should be there. I know you can't meet more than 2 of you, but 2 of you should be there and be able to watch what they're presenting and answer questions there. It's a big issue, and it affects not just the people whose properties are there. It affects all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cindy Wiley?
Good morning.
Morning.
I am very hopeful that our election administrator is going to be giving to Dr. Dougherty the 2,500 missing pages from the November 2020 general election, which he has requested, and they were missing in the cast vote records, which were supplied to him by our election administrator. So I'm very hopeful that's going to happen today. So in order to avoid any misinterpretation or misunderstanding, which I will read from the following original text. Out of the Texas Election Code, Chapter 122.001, Voting System Standards. A voting system may not be used in an election unless the system, number one, this is the number one requirement, preserve the secrecy of the ballot. Okay. Why is the county charging citizens $975 for cast vote or ballot images of the March 2024 primary runoff ballots? Why is the county charging citizens $750 for cast vote records or ballot images of the November 2024 general election? Why? Because the county believes that the secrecy of the ballots is not secret. So, the county wants to redact data on ballots, which is necessary for auditing to detect fraud, which is granted in our Texas Constitution, Article 6, Section 4, and make the citizens pay for their time and their labor, regardless of the fact that our county makes us vote on a machine that does not protect the secrecy of the ballot. Prior to these requests, all our other requests were fulfilled with no charge and no redactions, even though we voted on the same machines. If Ms. Chelsea Reber would like to expand her knowledge and speak to us by being a fair-minded reporter, by exploring and investigating both sides of an issue, we are more than happy to share our knowledge with her. just for the record. We are election judges, poll watchers, and poll workers, which presents a broader perspective of how our elections and machinery work, and we have Dr. Dougherty, our own local cyber expert, whom is on President Trump's short list, to further explain the processes. I will close with this. For too long, the right has been afraid to say no and do the right thing. We gave our representatives, most of whom are desperate to be liked. They are more interested in being called respectable by their enemies. For me, I want my representatives to be seen as fearless by their constituents, the Jesus way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was the last public input, so we will move on to presentation and discussions. First presentation by Joe Marlowe, Texas Transit District Vice President in Marketing and Communications, a comprehensive overview of the BTD's history, services, impact to the community, Brazos County as a large urban area, and what it means for the community moving forward. Joe.
Hi. Good morning, Judge Peters and Commissioners. Thank you for giving us this opportunity today. It's my privilege to stand before you to discuss the role and impact of Brazos Transit District and the transition from small urban to large urban, and what the future is and the partnership within Brazos County. Okay. BTD has been serving this community since 1974, growing into a vital transit provider that now covers 20 counties across Central and East Texas. We are governed by a 7-member board of directors, and that map, the different colors showcase each member's region. With a service area encompassing over 14,000 square miles and a population of more than 1.4 million people, we provide essential transportation options, including fixed routes, ADA paratransit, and demand and response service. I'll go into more details about this later as well. Here in Bryan College Station, BTD operates 10 fixed routes within Bryan and College Station. We go as far north as the DPS office and as far south as Reynolds and Reynolds. We connect residents to jobs, healthcare, education, and everyday necessities. These routes run Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., and all of our buses are ADA accessible. Now, we often hear comments about seeing empty buses, but it's important to understand that the ridership is there and that public transit operates on a different schedule than personal vehicles. Riders who depend on transit may travel at a different time that doesn't align with peak driving hours. So while you and I are getting ready, or the people that are using transportation services have to get there a little bit earlier. I wanted to include these pictures that you can see that there are people that ride the bus. These were just a couple of days that I was on the bus, but you can see that they're standing up, but the buses are full. While you may see a bus with few passengers at one moment, that same bus may turn the corner and be full at another time. Public transit is designed to provide consistent, reliable service throughout the day to ensure that whoever needs it, whether it's for work, school, medical appointments, or other essential trips, can get to their destinations when they need to. Public transit plays a vital role in keeping our community connected and thriving. Across Brazos County, I broke this out into each commissioner's precincts, but you can see, and I know this map is really hard to see, but there are dots on the map, and those are the locations of where people are utilizing transit within each commissioner's precinct. And I believe Commissioner Condola has the highest ridership in his precinct, but Commissioner Brown, yours is also very high as well. Our fixed routes, which are the routes that I showed you a little while ago, each route costs $1 per trip, and BTD offers a variety of tickets and passes to meet the needs for each rider. There are also options for reduced fares for those who are older than 65 or may have a disability. Students and staff members of Texas A&M University and Blinn can ride our fixed routes for free. All they have to do is show our driver their current student ID or staff ID, and the bus driver will let them on for free. We also partner with A&M's Transportation Services for people of the community that are not a student or a faculty member to utilize their services as well. It's a partnership that we have with the university. So we offer a pass. It's $35 a year, valid January through December, but that allows the public or people who are not necessarily A&M students or faculty, they can utilize the transportation services at A&M as well. Our fixed routes, we do offer a free mobile app. This mobile app is available in the Apple Store and Google Play. It showcases live bus locations. It will notify the riders of any closure or route detours as well. Okay. As we continue to strengthen our fixed route service and ensure reliable transportation for our community, it's important that we focus on enhancing the infrastructure that supports it. Providing efficient transit isn't just about having buses on the road, it's about creating a system that's accessible, comfortable, and convenient for those who rely on it every day. That's why we're excited about our ongoing and upcoming projects aiming to improving the rider experience. One of our key initiatives is the addition of new bus stops and shelters along with our fixed routes. These enhancements will provide much needed relief from the elements, increasing visibility and improving accessibility for all riders. By expanding our transit infrastructure, we're not only making public transit more user-friendly and inviting, but also reinforcing our commitment to ensuring that everyone in our growing community has access to safe and reliable mobility options. And these numbers here are preliminary and they're subject to change, but in total we have 315 designated bus stops that are coming to Bryan and College Station. I did split it up between College Station and Bryan so you can kind of see the need for each. And I know it seems like the number of shelters are really low compared to the number of stops. And the reason for that is shelters are a lot more expensive. It comes with including the infrastructure like the cement pad, any kind of compliance issues that we have to install or be part of as well. So we wanted to start small and focus more on giving us the opportunity to see which stops were utilized the most. And then from there, each year we plan to add stops or change routes depending on the community's needs. So we wanted to start small with the shelter. So if we needed to move a stop, we could, but moving a shelter is more difficult, and once they're there, like the infrastructure's there, so we don't really want to move it once it gets put in place. These are some of the shelters that you may see around town. One is on Rock Prairie by the health center. I think it's the Med now, but and then we have a shelter near Longmire, near the Walmart, and the double shelter is by the Lincoln Center. So these are just different options that we have. Of course, some will have more amenities, some may have less, but these are just kind of what we're looking at as far as what we have currently in Bryan and College Station. I'm going to transition a little bit into our ADA paratransit. This is a curb-to-curb transportation option designed for individuals with disabilities who are unable to access the fixed route service. To qualify, both the origin and destination must be within 3/4 of a mile of the fixed route. Riders can schedule trips up to 7 days in advance or as late as the day before as their travel needs based on availability as well. It's double the price of our fixed routes, but it is still an affordable option for those who need it. Our demand and response service is also a shared ride curb-to-curb transit option. It's very similar to our ADA service. The only big difference is that there are no destination restrictions. So you can go anywhere within the county. It's $3.50 one way. So you're looking at a $7 round trip for anywhere within Brazos County. We operate Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with our demand and response service, and it's a lot cheaper than an Uber ride or any of the other options that are available within the county as well. I like to mention that when you are ready to book your trip, our dispatchers will go through these lists of questions with you whenever you are calling to schedule your trip. So I like to prepare our riders to have that information available to them before they call, so they have everything they need before they make their trip. Okay. Every ride taken on public transit represents a step towards a healthier, safer, and more connected Brazos County. Investing in transit is an investment in our community's well-being, economic growth, and overall quality of life. Public transportation is a key component of a strong economy. For every dollar invested in public transit yields $4 in economic returns. This struck a chord with me while I was attending the Chamber's Economic Outlook Conference. Ms. Davenport talks about the regional economic goals and the key initiatives that are coming to these areas. And a lot of these big industries are looking to rely on public transit as they do in the bigger cities. And Dr. Gaines also touched on the growth coming to Brazos County. Our population is expected to double in the next 30 years. And as Brazos County prepares for this significant growth, the question that we must ask ourselves is, where will these people go and how will they travel? Expanding roads and building new infrastructure, I hate to say the East Loop, but comes with high costs, long timelines, and major disruptions. Now, while road expansion is part of the solution, it alone cannot support the increasing demand for efficient mobility. Public transit offers a viable, cost-effective, and sustainable alternative. Investing in transit means moving more people with fewer vehicles. That means reducing congestion and travel times, providing affordable transportation for workers, students, seniors, and those without personal vehicles. This also decreases the strain on emergency services by ensuring access to health care, jobs, and daily necessities, protecting our environment by reducing emissions and traffic-related pollution. Public transit is more than just a means of getting from point A to point B. It's an investment in keeping Brazos County connected and moving forward. By planning ahead and making smart investments now, we can ensure that our community grows. We remain a place where people can live, work, and thrive without being stuck in traffic. What is this going to take? Partnerships and understanding with key stakeholders. These are some of the stakeholders that we regularly talk to. We attend meetings, we hear from them, and who we like to reach out to whenever we are looking at route realignments or if we need to make any changes. You know, Brazos County is growing. Are our fixed routes meeting the needs of the community? These are things that we are going to we look at as well.
Can we just bust right in and ask questions?
see.
She's doing it. I'll have to wait.
As many of you know, the 2020 census determined that Bryan College Station surpassed a population of 200,000, officially reclassifying our community as a large urban area. While this recognition reflects our region's growth and success, it also brings significant funding challenges for BTD. Under our previous classification as a small urban agency, we received $4.3 million in federal transit funds. Now, we were the big fish in a small pond there. And when we moved to a large urban, we became the small fish in a really big pond. So our funding was reduced by 36%, leaving us with just around $2.8 million for the upcoming fiscal year. This shift requires increased community support to ensure the continued availability and expansion for travel services. We are committed to working with local leaders, businesses, and stakeholders within this community to find sustainable solutions to maintain and improve public transportation as our region continues to grow. Our UZA committee, so this was a committee that started shortly after we became a large UZA, a large urbanized area, with all of the 5 entities within our organization as well. So we have Brazos County, City of Bryan, City of College Station, A&M Transportation Services, TxDOT, and then Brazos Valley Center for Independent Living. Each has a member, but we've only met twice, but the 2 meetings that we have been very insightful, and I see good things coming to this area, so we just be patient, and I know that this group of people will help us get to a level of transportation that we can all be happy about. Okay. Let's see. We also get a lot of questions regarding our funding and compliance that we must follow. You'll see here, this is kind of how our grants fall and the governance within those. This governance eliminates the chance of fund waste or misuse. BTD has to follow guidelines and regulations from each federal department to be eligible for these funds, which leads to continual audits from the Federal Transit Administration and the Texas Department of Transportation as well. We also have to follow compliance from Title VI, Americans with Disabilities, drug and alcohol testing, National Transit Database reporting, state reporting, financial management requirements, labor protections, things like that. Okay. BTD receives federal funding from the Federal Transit Administration, which is FTA. There are two types of federal grants. We have formula grants and discretionary grants. Formula grants are allocated to transit agencies every year. Discretionary grants are grants that we can apply for. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get it, but it gives us the opportunity to apply for those. And some of these, bus and bus facilities, emergency relief, low or no emissions program, I'm not sure with the new administration if that's going to continue to be a grant available to us, but we do apply for that as well. With our federal funding, we also are required to match it with non-federal funds, and those are our state funding. With our state funding, the legislature appropriates state funding each biennium, and TxDOT allocates state funding according to the Texas Transit funding formula. It's split between the rural and the small urban agencies, and only rural and urban transit agencies are eligible for these funds. So if we don't take it, it's going to go to somebody else's district. So we want the money to come here. With the large urbanized area, there are 9 districts that split usually about $3.5 million a year, and those are places like Amarillo, Brownsville, Killeen, Laredo, Lubbock, McAllen, and McKinney and Frisco, and the Woodlands. But some of these grants we can apply with capital or planning projects. The low or no emissions, we were awarded electric vehicles for us and A&M, so those will come. But these are just some of the grant fundings that we apply for on an annual basis. Another important topic I would like to address today is the transition of the Roy Kelly parking garage back to Brazos County. When this facility was originally developed, Brazos County donated an in-kind match for the land appraisal of $560,000 as part of the local funding match, with the understanding that the building would revert back to the county after an allotted time. However, we are transitioning now at the request of the county, not BTD, and it does make the most sense as the county utilizes parking spaces for employees. Parking spaces for employees, jury duty parking, and part of the building also houses adult probation and public services. This transition reflects a strong partnership between BTD and Brazos County. Our priority has always been to serve the needs of this community, and we believe that county management of the parking garage will provide a more sustainable solution while allowing BTD to focus its resource on enhancing transit services. Brazos County is growing, and with that growth comes a need for reliable, efficient, and accessible public transportation. We remain dedicated to working with the court and the community partners to ensure that public transit remains a viable and effective solution for our region's mobility challenges. We appreciate the county's ongoing collaboration and support, and we look forward to continuing our shared mission of building a connected, accessible, and thriving Brazos County. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and your commitment to the future of public transportation in our community.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, I'll leave my contact up for if anybody needs it as well.
Joe, I've got a number of questions for you. I've been pretty vocal in the past.
Yes.
As not a big supporter of Brazos Valley Transit. But you and Wendy Whedon came to see me a couple of weeks ago, and I'm trying to get my arms around everything. In my precinct, we had 150,201 trips last year. That's 556 people per day, figuring 270 days out of a calendar year. I have a couple of questions for you. Number one, how many of the big green buses do you operate every day for Bryan College Station?
So 10.
10. 10 is all for Bryan and College Station?
Yes, we have 10 routes at Bryan and College Station.
Okay, this is my question. You alluded to the fact that you all are filling up buses or putting a lot of people on buses before we even get out of bed in the morning, taking them to work. And then I guess you pick them up before we get off, before we leave these offices. So why aren't you running small buses during that space between when you have the heavy ridership with nothing and then you have the heavy ridership to take them home?
So
take
one of the
people
reasons we do that is because the bigger buses allow for us to have mobility devices. So if there are people with disabilities or somebody in a wheelchair or a mobility device that comes on, the smaller buses usually only house like one or maybe two, but you're really limiting your space for other people to board. So we don't want to leave somebody who is in a mobility device on the street because we can't fit them on the bus. So it just leaves us the option to be able to provide transportation for everybody that needs it if that situation comes. Now we understand that they're not always full, but when that opportunity comes, it's there.
I've never seen them full during the day. You know, I take your word for the fact that they are early in the morning and in the afternoon when people are getting off work and going home. But during the rest of the time, I never see more than 1 or 2 people anywhere in Bryan or College Station on those buses. And I just think it's a huge waste of taxpayer money, the way I look at it. I mean, if I was running it, I wouldn't be doing that. I'd figure out some way to get some of those big buses off the roads and put smaller buses on, just because of the cost of operating those buses.
And honestly, with the small buses, like it takes usually about 2 years to get a bus in for us. And with the buses passing their useful life and trying to find parts, we run the risk of not being able to get parts for a bus. And so a lot of times we just, we use the buses that we have available. And sometimes the price to operate a big bus is the same as a smaller bus.
Okay. So I guess if you've got 10 large buses, if you were going to use those in the morning and use those in the afternoon, and then in the middle of the day you're going to be using, if that's the question, you'd have to have 20 buses. You'd have to have 10 small ones and 10 big ones, and switch out. And I don't really know whether that would make it efficient or not to have 20 buses that you're keeping up rather than 10 that are large and able to use them. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I hear your question, and that's kind of what comes to my mind is.
And we also have to have a spare ratio. So for every bus that we operate, we have to have so many available just in case one goes down and we need to replace it. So there is additional compliance with that as well.
How many small buses do we have?
We have roughly about 108 buses within our whole 120 counties. So it just depends on the area and what the need is.
How many do you have here?
I'm not sure on the exact number here, but I would guess as Wendy may come in and step in and answer that question for me, but maintenance is the one department I try to stay away from.
So the biggest chunk of our fleet is for our rural area. It was bought with rural funds. It's not for the urbanized area. Back to your question, Mr. Brown, or your comment. I know it seems crazy. I heard a snicker in the audience, but to operate the diesel buses, cost-wise, is about the same as operating a gasoline smaller bus. The life expectancy on the smaller buses is 5 years. The life expectancy on the larger buses is 12 years. Diesel gets a little bit better fuel mileage than a fuel bus does. And given the size of the diesel bus versus the gasoline, they pretty much even out. They both get about the same amount of miles per gallon. So the cost difference is in the operator. The bigger buses require a CDL operator. We have to pay them more to work for us. But it's not solely based on the size of the vehicle. It's based on the number of passengers that it holds. And like Joe said, there's plenty of time, even on our larger buses, that we have to send an additional bus out, a supervisor or whoever, because we might have 5 people in mobility devices on 1 hour. And we can only fit 3 or 4 on at that time, depending on the size and type. There's a lot of different constraints. When we were operating the international buses before, they were 28 to 30 feet. I can't remember, don't quote me. But there was plenty of time that we were on standing room only for some of the routes. And while that's acceptable in public transit, it's also unsafe for us. We don't like to have people standing. It's a distraction for the driver. If you have to make sudden stops, and being in a college town, we know we have to make sudden stops a lot. Those people that are holding on is hard. And the George Strait concert, for example, myself and my family rode from the parking garage to Kyle Field, and it was an amazing service. We were there and back. But we got on the bus fast, and the college students they're used to having to stand and hold on. But there was a lot of elderly people on there, there was children, there was a lot of people that are not accustomed to holding on like that to ride. And it was a little concerning. So these are things that we take a look at. The diesel buses that we have, we went out for a discretionary grant. We were awarded. And so there was no local funds used to purchase those vehicles. We didn't have to go out for the grant. We could have left it and another region could have applied and they probably would have gotten the money instead of us. But those vehicles will last probably 3 rounds because none of our vehicles do we operate only for its useful life. All of our vehicles go well past their useful life. So it would take 3 smaller buses, essentially, for the lifespan of one of the larger buses. Fuel-wise, we're looking at the same amount of money. Insurance, the same amount of money. I mean, the cost is in the operator, and that cost would not change with a smaller vehicle. They're cleaner diesel. They're intended to be more efficient and better for the environment. And the grant that we applied for, that was the targeted goal of the grant. Cleaner diesel buses.
I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate the fact that both of y'all came and visited with me several weeks ago, and that helped me get my arms around it. And I understand how important this service is. I just always look for ways to be more efficient in everything we do, and that's the reason I asked the questions that I did. Thank you.
I wanted to clarify, the dots on your maps is boardings and alighting. So that's people getting on and off. So it's not just 150,000 people getting on in that 12-month time frame. It's them getting on, them getting off. And we give each of you your own district with all those little dots on there. And we didn't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of nerdy transit data, but we're happy to give you a whole lot more because we love to talk about transit and help you to understand transit's not perfect. It's not perfect in any location I've ever visited across the United States, but we do what we can with the funding that we have. We try to make it stretch for all those that we can. And if we had, of course, taxing authority and stuff, it'd be a different ballgame, but we don't. So we do what we can with what we have, and we appreciate the county stepping up this year and helping us keep what we have in place currently with the reduction.
Wendy and Joe, thank y'all very much. From a Precinct 4 perspective, I truly understand the need. Well, again, it's not perfect, but we still have to try to, in my opinion, we still have to try to provide resources and services for the community, even when it's not perfect, even when it looks like the buses aren't always full. I see enough in my precinct of people. I even have a neighbor, a lady that literally goes on her walker down to the bus stop. I see her several times. Usually I'm on my way here, so I don't have time, because I wanted to stop and see if it was something I could do. But she literally got to the bus stop on a walker, pushing herself on a walker. So again, I appreciate the tough job. I appreciate all that you do. And from Precinct 4 perspective, thank you very much for the service that you provide for the residents in my precinct.
Yeah,
Yes,
I want to thank you all. Y'all came by and visited with me also, but I want to ask a question because I know
Yes.
you've prepared for it. Why couldn't we replace some or all of the service with like an Uber
So glad you asked that question.
privatization?
So Uber and Lyft are fantastic, especially when you're using someone else's credit card to pay for it. Our fare is $1, and we have people in our community. The ladies talked about people, the needy, Meals on Wheels. We have people in our community that are transportation deprived. They're food deprived. They can't spare $1.
Right.
So even the 50 cents, the half fare, is a struggle for them. And so trying to get them to afford Uber prices, I can't even afford Uber prices, and nor do I want to. Unless when I dip into my kids' college fund, I don't. But, and Uber prices fluctuate. with the need, what's going on. We've looked at prices from time to time, and they're over $200 to get somewhere around this town because there's a huge event. And to me, that's a little bit of a price gouging situation, but our fares are our fares. We charge a fare because Federal Transit Administration requires that we do so. My personal opinion, we're dropping dollars to pick up dimes when we charge fares. It's more beneficial for the community at large if we didn't. If whoever wanted to just board could board and get off whenever they wanted. But it's a requirement, and until we find a way around it, that's what it is. I know also, while you mentioned, there was a comment about wanting the Brazos Transit District to get back to when we were making a profit. We've never made a profit. We've always been subsidized by federal and state grants. So I don't know where that comment came from. I think it's maybe misunderstood on our part. But the majority, this is the first year ever that any entity in Brazos County is financially contributing to public transit here. We've been fortunate enough to use the funding that A&M spends on their transit system as local match to draw down our federal and state dollars. And we still have that ability, but with the budget cut going to large urban, we can't keep it the same if we do not have the added extra from the county and the two cities. We'll have to reduce service. When we reduce service, we're going to reduce our ridership and again reduce our funding, because our funding is directly dependent on ridership.
All right. Any other questions? Thank both of y'all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Okay, next is a presentation by Trudy Hancock, Elections Administrator, in response to questions regarding November 2020 election, general election.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. How are you guys today?
Good.
Looks like we're in for a lengthy meeting today. So I'm here today to address some concerns that were brought forth and a report that was, or audit report that was received by the court. And I want to go over some items that were brought up in that. So the first item that was brought in that report was incorrect dating on the reports. It says that each page of the official CVR report is labeled at the top with the run time of 10:44 and a run date of 2/28/25.
Bless you.
So let me give you a little bit of a backstory for this. So we are looking at the 2020 election. I want to remind everyone that we were all electronic still then. We had not moved to the hybrid paper base, so we were still electronic. And we upgraded from our all electronic voting to hybrid paper base in August of 2021. The request for the CVR records was not made until 2022. And at that point, we were not able to access the records in-house because we had moved to a different version. So we sent a archived database to HART. They retrieved all this information for us and then returned it to us on a secure site. The computer that HART used, you can set your computer date, any time that you want on a PC. The computer that HART used to pull the information from our archive did not have the proper date on it. When the open records request was answered, the email also had this notation. Oh, there's a little dot. This notation at the bottom of it, letting the requester know that the date was incorrect on that report due to the computer having the wrong date. So that to me is not really an issue. Sorry. And then there was concern that totals do not match. It says, however, there are only 285 ballots in the official CVR report labeled President, Vice President, undervotes 1. Why does the official canvass report then say that there are 537 undervoted ballots? So the CVR report is a direct reflection of each vote that was cast. So that report is 100,937 pages long. But when a voter comes in to vote and they choose to vote a write-in, that CVR that's created shows write-in. Now, when you choose a write-in, you go to the machine, you push write-in, you type in whoever you choose. You are supposed to choose a certified candidate. We have a list. I know that you've probably all noticed when you go to vote, there's a piece of paper that tells you who the certified candidates are. You can write whatever you want on that. You'd be surprised Mickey Mouse gets votes, Donald Duck gets votes. You know, we see all kinds of votes. But if they are not a certified write-in, then that vote does not count. But the CVR, which is a reflection of what the voter is doing on the machine, shows it as write-in. So if the voter chooses to write in Mickey Mouse, it just shows up as write-in. Those do not get transferred or do not show up as an undervote until we have taken the media and uploaded it into the computer. Each of those, I think we had 370 write-in votes in the 2020 election. Each one of those has to be resolved by the tally team, which is the central count judge and an IT person sitting in front of the computer, and they look at each one. So if Mickey Mouse gets a vote, it gets rejected. If whoever was one of the candidates, the certified candidates gets a vote, then it gets counted. And so if you look at the rejected write-in votes were 252. And you add that to the 285 votes, undervotes that were expressed in the report that they went through and found, then that totals the 537 undervotes that is on the canvass report itself. So you have to remember that CVR does not reflect president, vice president undervote, because at the time the CVR is created, the CVR does not know if that vote is going to be accepted or not. So it's just a misinterpretation of where in the process that those votes start showing up as undervotes. Do you have any questions before I go on to the next one?
So if a person chooses not, rather than write in, they just choose not to vote for any candidate, does that contribute to the undervote?
Yes, it'll show up as an undervote.
Because some people, because I've done it.
Right.
Certain.
Right, and it shows up as undervote, but because that voter made a choice, it does not show up as undervote on the CVR. Then there was a concern that the presidential undervotes not properly identified. This screenshot is from the report, and this CVR is from an absentee ballot. This is not an in-person ballot. And it states that this does not reflect a choice for president, vice president undervote on this ballot at all. An absentee ballot is handled completely different in the system. So an absentee ballot is reflective of the page or the sheet that is counted. So when we have multiple sheets, our ballots for 2020 were multiple sheet ballots for an absentee ballot. This CVR here is a reflection of a second sheet, which is the third page of a ballot that started with proposition number 5. So the CVR is only reflective of what's on that physical page. And so the contests that are above that were before, that they voted on prior to Proposition 5, are not going to be seen on this sheet. So here's an example. This ballot was in the report that was submitted to the court. It's just a sample of a absentee ballot. So if you look at it, it starts with president and it goes all the way through one of the propositions. So this is a sheet. So it's page 1 and 2 of a ballot. Like I said, we had multi-page ballots, so we had 4 pages, 2 sheets. So if you look at, on the right-hand side is the CVR. The CVR is reflective of this one sheet. So it's pages 1 and 2. And if you look at the next CVR, it's reflective of page 3 and 4. 4 is left blank because the ballot wasn't long enough to carry over to the back page. But if you notice, those are just what's reflective of that one sheet. So you have to look at how they're processed and how they're printed out and accumulated on the CVRs. So then the other concern was that we had 5,134 ballot pages missing. It says here that each of the pages, each ballot is assigned a unique character or CVR ID, which applies to all 3 pages of the ballot. The 5,134 pages, ballot pages have been determined to be pages 1 and 2 of 2,567 ballots that the CVR report does not show having the president or vice president. So again, according to the Hart Manual, each sheet receives its own CVR ID. So it's not, what he's saying here is that each of these pages will have their own CVR ID. That is incorrect. Each sheet has its own CVR ID. And so pages 1 and 2 will have their CVR ID, and page 3 and 4 will have their own CVR ID. Now, in an in-person CVR, where a person comes in and votes, yes, that 2-page CVR does have the same number because that's considered one session or one ballot. When you vote by mail, a voter, it seems very unlikely, but a voter can just send in 1 page of their ballot. That does not invalidate the rest of their ballot. So we have to take whatever pages they turn in. So that is one of the reasons that each of those pages, each of those sheets are assigned their own CVR. So here, what this report tells me is that they are looking for, say, the first CVR. They found it on page 3, and they are looking for it to show up again in that 100,000 pages. They're looking for it to show up 2 more times to replicate pages 1 and 2. It is not going to show up. Pages 1 and 2 are going to have their own CVR ID, and it will just be one ID for the page 1 and 2 because it's one sheet of paper. So we do not have missing CVR records. They are all accounted for. One thing that we do, which is a quick check for us, we do on election night, we do when we're finishing up our final reconciliations. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, you see that we had 85,598 ballots counted. And if you add up each of these, so we had 6,727 ballots by mail, 65,805 early voting, 13,066 election day ballots, votes cast, for a total of 85,598. So our ballot count and our results counts equal. Any questions? Would you like me to, while I'm already here, would you like me to address what's going to be covered in the upgrade while I'm already here?
Please.
Well, before we leave that, I mean, I
Yes.
thought, I didn't know you were had finished with this
Yes,
part of it.
yes.
So let me ask, did anybody bring you these questions or any concerns come to you and say, hey, here's the X number of pages that we have concerns about? Since you are the expert, did anybody bring you that before they brought it to us here in court and presented it? Did you have any idea about
No,
these?
sir.
Okay,
It has not been brought to me personally, no.
okay.
It has
I mean,
only been brought here to the court.
And I would assume that because it was presented to us, the Commissioners Court, here in court, in a public setting, that potentially the reporter might have reached out to you to say, hey, what's going on? To find out, because there were, I mean, you hear the questions and you wonder, well, really what's going on? They might have been answered before they were actually brought in the public, had they asked you first. But I would assume that's kind of how that reporter got their story, was they came to you to find out what was going on.
Yes, sir. I do not reach out to the media at all. If they call, I answer them to the best of my ability, whether it's things for court or if I've been called just because of several different articles that'll be published. I'll be called and asked, is it affecting Brazos County and how we do things?
So, I mean, it's clear to me that that you and your staff have spent a lot of time putting this together.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea maybe how many hours y'all might have spent, you and staff and IT and all, who had to go sort through all of these to figure out what the answer to those questions are?
Yes, sir. Just in researching the report and then pulling that documentation together, and then for the presentation today, I have approximately about 11 or 12 hours just in this one.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you spending the time. I mean, it's certainly necessary if someone comes in and asks questions and leaves doubt about whether our election system is accurate. Since this was the 2020 election, and we have changed systems now and have that paper ballot as an audit, a way to audit. I mean, we're going back 4 years in the past for something that, I mean, to me, I thought we were over that and moved on. I do appreciate you spending the time that you and your staff have done to answer the questions. I think you've done a great job with that.
Well, and that's one thing, we want to be sure that everyone in Brazos County, all of our voters, we're up to, I think, 134,000 registered voters now. They talked about growth earlier, and yes, we are seeing it exponentially, through processing voter registration applications. But that's one thing, that is our goal, to ensure that every voter in Brazos County understands that their vote is going to be cast, that they have the opportunity to cast their ballot is cast and accepted and counted in the manner in which that they cast it.
Well, and again, the newer system that we acquired, I guess, was it in 2020?
21.
21.
Mm-hmm. We went hybrid in 21.
And I've said this plenty of times before, you walk in there to the voting machine, you punch into the computer who you're voting for, it prints out your ballot, you look at your ballot and you see that computer put on that ballot exactly what you put into it, and if it's correct, you go over and scan it, and then it goes into that computer, and we have the ability, and we cross-check, we audit with several precincts to verify that machine is accurate, that what you put on your ballot is what is the final total.
Right, and what we have to remember is that scanner, or where you put the ballot into the ballot box, that scanner is more like a copier, and it reads things OCR. It doesn't read a barcode. It doesn't, it reads the name and position of that name on the ballot. It does not, it doesn't read anything from a barcode scanner or anything like that. So then, afterwards, we do the partial manual count. We tie back to every precinct at the locations and tie back to those reports to make sure that we have the right number of ballots per precinct and we have the right number of what the results are supposed to be.
Okay, so I do know that, there was a comment made that hadn't been any meetings, and I know you and I have been in meetings with some of the group, and I've been in meetings with group and tried to answer past questions and thought they had been answered, but obviously, there seems to be more and more questions come up. You've done a good job answering the questions. Thank you. You got something you want to?
Before you do that, I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
So, when I was running for this position, I had a gentleman call me who was disabled and had requested I'm going to make sure Bruce didn't tell me to be quiet. Requested a mail-in ballot, and he was having trouble getting it, and called your office, and that you went out there personally and delivered it to him. I want to thank you for that and the service you provide our citizens, because that to me speaks volumes about what your organization does to represent Brazos County. So thank you.
We do everything. If we make a mistake, we do everything humanly possible to make that right. I am not going to hold a voter harm because we put the wrong address on an envelope or, made some mistake. I'm not above saying that me or my staff are perfect. We are human. We will make mistakes. But we do everything in our ability to rectify those.
Thank you.
Trudy, I wanted to, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to reiterate again, I've said it again time and time again. Before I became an elected official, I worked with you guys.
Yes, ma'am.
And during 2020, I call it when we were in the secret location and the volume of mail-in ballots came in. And in working collaboratively with the other county judge, I was extremely pleased and with how the election was run. And so I personally, from a personal perspective, have no concerns about the security of our elections, the work that you and your staff do, because I got to see it up close and personal. I know that things have changed since 2020, but nonetheless, I am ever so confident that you and your staff are doing all that you can to make sure that our elections are secure and that every vote is counted properly. And so I, as an elected official, support all that you do and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Trudy, I just want to thank you because the other day, you came in and visited with the two new commissioners, which, by the way, we now have business cards, so we're not new anymore.
Oh, okay.
But
I don't have one.
You answered all of our questions, and I thought it was. I never knew the fact that none of these machines are tied to the internet.
No, they are not.
Which that's the safety piece that we really need. And I didn't know that until you mentioned that there's no way this has anything to do with the internet, period, ever. So thank you.
Okay.
Was there anything else you wanted to?
I think I'll just wait.
Upgrade? No.
Did you want me to do that now?
No, that's all right.
Okay, I'll just wait.
Thank you,
Okay.
Trudy.
Thank you, Trudy. Okay, we will consider and take action on agenda items 4 through 27. Number 4 is approval of resolution 25-002 to apply for specialty court grant, adult drug court from the Office of the Governor for 25-26.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 5 is approval of resolution 25-003 to apply for specialty court grant mental health court from the Office of the Governor FY 25-26.
Move approval.
Second?
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 6 is approval requested from Emergency Management to apply for FY 2025 Homeland Security Grant, HSGP, to approval of Resolution 25-004 for a regional web EOC project through the Office of the Governor.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion.
I contacted our newly appointed director of this, on this, and this is a big thing for our county. It's going to allow us to communicate across counties about emergencies in real time. So it's a great opportunity for us to step into this century.
Thank you, Commissioner. We haven't voted yet. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 7 is approval request from Juvenile Services Department for acceptance of $2,902.89 from the Texas Education Agency to purchase library books for youth attending Juvenile Justice Alternative Educational Program.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 8 is approval request from Juvenile Services Department for acceptance of $3,150 from the Texas Juvenile Justice Department to be used for window tinting on the pod entry doors in the detention center to increase safety.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 9 is approval requested from the Veteran Services Officer for acceptance of a $100 check donation from Costco to be used for veteran resources fair purchases.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 10 is approval of the following appointments from Brazos County Emergency Services District ESD 3.
Move approval A and B.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 11 is approval of the following job description: Director of Forensic Services B 3001 Forensic Services.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 12 is request authorization to wire transfer up to $1,177,744.50 to the Health and Human Services Commission for aligning the technology by linking the interoperable system for client health outcome program, intergovernmental transfer for the benefit of participating hospitals using funding from Brazos County Local Provider Participating Fund.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion.
Judge, I just want to, this is just like we did last week. This money flows through the hospitals, the 7% that they charge every patient that comes in, they add it to their bill, and it just flows through straight to us, and then we send it on to HHSC. So we don't want you to think that this money comes out of the budget of the county. It doesn't. It comes from the hospitals, and it comes from your visits to the hospitals. So please keep going. Okay.
Correct, it is budget neutral. That's right.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 13 is approval of security camera policy. This policy defines the purpose of security cameras and establishes the appropriate use of the system by approved county employees.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion.
Yeah, I think they've done a lot of work on this policy, and I appreciate that. There are a couple of questions, though, that I had was, with the statutory authority for us to adopt this policy wasn't listed on it. Normal policies, I would expect to see that. The second is, I'd like to see some kind of a regular report to the commissioners on how many cameras we're operating and who has access to those, and by department. Because I am real concerned on protecting the privacy of the public and our employees. I understand the need for security, but I think we're just not quite there with this policy.
Judge, Commissioners. As far as statutorily, I don't know that there's any regulations statutorily except for keeping information private that affects this policy per se. This policy is for in-house to regulate what employees are allowed to do in the system, what employees are allowed to be in the system, and the access process that would allow the employees to get granted access to the system. Right now, the county has over 1,200 camera views. We have, I don't know if y'all know this, over 100 structures in the county. A lot of those buildings do have cameras, or properties do have cameras, not all of them, but a lot of them do, and the county system has grown over the years. So what we did in order to come to the conclusion of creating the committee and the policy is we came to executive session at one point last year, and it was determined that we needed to create the committee. So in May of 2024, we established that committee. That committee is made up of a district judge, a constable to represent the constable's offices, justice of the peace to represent the JPs, because they have a situation with courts. Expo has over 300 camera views, almost 400 camera views, because it is a public, like, the public goes there. They have thousands of people there regularly in and out. So we had somebody from them. We had somebody from project management on the committee, risk management, human resources. We had 2 individuals helping on the IT side for the committee, 2 individuals from the sheriff's office. They operate not only law enforcement side, but they also operate the jail, which also has over 300 camera views. Juvenile, we had 2 individuals from juvenile to help with their side, because juveniles obviously have more protections than others, as well as legal was on the committee. This policy will affect all county departments. And I've already mentioned the 1,200 camera views. Not every camera is just one view. We do have cameras that have 4 views in the device, which is why we have so many views. Obviously, the camera system is put in place for the safety and security of not only employees but also the public, for courtrooms, for public areas of the facilities. This policy also established, so I mentioned earlier, it establishes a process for employees to request access. Currently, we have over 250 employees that have access to the system. That's a lot. So this policy establishes a process to request access, and everyone will have to re-request access. Just because they currently have access doesn't necessarily mean they're going to end up with access in the end. That is for the committee to decide, to make a recommendation to the county judge's office for the approval of the access. This policy also establishes a process for departments to request additional cameras. So in the past, departments have just been able to go and request cameras. If it's a small purchase, if it's not a financial burden, they were just, if they could be accommodated, they were accommodated. Now this policy will allow for a risk assessment to know if those cameras are necessary or not to be added for those situations. The risk assessment establishes questions that the department will have to answer, like, has there been any safety concerns in the past? Have there been any situations that would warrant the cameras? The system, or the policy, also establishes proper use of the system. It's not meant to monitor employees. It's meant to deter, property damage, deter violence, and it's helpful for security to have those cameras, not necessarily every employee. And then it also establishes the proper way to obtain security footage. So if we have a situation where, somebody wants a video from one of the courts, then they would have to apply for or they would have to put in their FOIA request. And then that process would go through the open records request process. If it's law enforcement and they're doing an investigation, obviously we would release that information as soon as possible because it's under a case number. So that's kind of my spiel on the policy.
So who pays for the data storage? Is it the department who asked the camera to be put up, or?
No, sir. So the county, all the departments is county money.
That's the expensive portion of it, right?
Yes, so data is a big thing. Currently, we did have a bunch of camera views that were kind of erratic on what the retention dates were. Some departments need a longer retention than others because of either statutorily or because of a situation. So like jail, for instance, theirs is longer than the expo, but the expo is longer than our building per se, since they have so much activity out there. So does that answer your question? Or you're asking about cost?
Yes.
So I don't know what the cost is to store the data. I know it's a lot.
There's a budget officer standing behind you. Maybe she could help.
Sorry, I cannot give you the amount that it costs, but the money is under IT's budget to cover for the whole county system. Granted, every single time we add another camera, that cost is going to go up. And so that means more storage. And so this is one way, as far as I'm aware, one way for a review to make sure that camera is seen instead of a want, it is a need. That way we can make sure we're funding it properly as well. That's my quote. Any questions regarding budget?
Well, and it sounds like to me that over 50% of the camera views are law enforcement, jail, anything to do with the courts. All of those are extremely necessary given the function of those respective areas.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I would imagine that that's going to probably grow as we grow. So it's a very as we worry about the money, but it's also a very necessary part, especially when you talk about the jails, when you talk about the court, and the storing that information that is so necessary. And I hadn't thought about the expo, when you have all those rodeo things and different events out there. Oh my gosh!
Yes, it gets massive with
Yes.
with the crowds.
Is there a standard for reviewing the policy every 3 years or something, or is it ad hoc, or how do we?
So our office tries to review every 2 to 3 years each policy that we put out. It's just that's just our way of doing it, so that we can keep up with the policy. Also, as time goes, when you create a new policy like this, as time goes, people ask questions. Like we implement the policy, and then people start asking questions. Well, what about this? Or why can't I do this? And sometimes that creates us to have to adjust the policy. And that's okay. And we're okay with doing that. That's something we would bring to the court, to make those adjustments. But we do have in here where we can elect to reestablish the committee at any point. If there's too many questions about something, we can reestablish the committee and get them to help with whatever those changes might be, or if there's a new software or something that's being looked at, the committee can also do that as well. So it's basically just trying to rein everything in and give guidance so that everybody knows what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Okay.
Any other
I
questions?
had, Cindy Wiley was wanting to speak on that. I failed to let you, okay. Isn't that 14?
But we do need a vote.
Okay.
So I wanted to address Commissioner Bentley's first question about statutory authority. I'm not aware of specific statutory authority for a county to have a policy on cameras, but it's property that we own. And so just like we have a policy for county buildings being used, we have a policy for county vehicles being used, it's appropriate for us to have this for county cameras. But more importantly, this policy governs the behavior of our employees.
and the use of our cameras by those employees. We haven't had many issues here in Brazos County, but I think we're aware of some where, like in the middle of a crisis, somebody took over a camera and moved it away from where the law enforcement charged with security was trying to watch, because they had camera access that nobody realized they had. And so we want to make sure we address issues before they happen here.
So one of my concerns is the disparate standard for retaining data storage. So Expo has it 30 days, the jail has it for 90 or 6 months, and I'm sure that's driven, I'm sure the jail is driven by some statutory requirement. Expo is maybe some property liability issues, and then everybody else 2 weeks. Well, why is everybody else 2 weeks? Shouldn't everybody else be 30 if it's a public building visited by the public? Or is it just because we don't have large vehicles and animals in it?
So the 2 weeks is, there's multiple requirements for retention of information put on counties, votes, camera footage, documents, all sorts of things in the 2 weeks.
Texas Public Information Act, right?
Yeah.
So.
We also, I guess, have to be concerned about best practices, because with the changing of the times, litigation, safety, all of those factors, I would imagine that policy is ever evolving because the sign of the times are ever evolving. Just the reality of issues that are being, you just hear, he's talked about one case of an employee using it inappropriately. That's an important evolution of things that could happen.
Absolutely. And as the fleet grows, as we build new buildings, those buildings get cameras. It's an ever growing possibility.
Absolutely.
So just to have these processes in place will help, mitigate some of that liability that could happen for HR or could happen for other departments that have to investigate.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. We have not voted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 14 is approval of purchase election equipment upgrade and supplies from Hart Intercivic in the amount of $25,690.04.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Now I think Cindy wanted to speak on this.
Judge,
Well,
oh,
I was going to let the public, go ahead and come on up.
So pardon me just a second. Just a simple question, and this is probably more for Bruce, but is there a legal reason why we're not able to get a copy of this? Because I have in the past received invoices, agreements with financial amounts on them. So I don't know why it's not a hyperlink that we can't see.
Purchasing here?
Yeah, so far.
Do you want to do this one or you want me to?
Go ahead.
You just fix it if I mess up. So in this particular situation, we received the documents from the vendor, which in this case is obviously Hart. Hart has marked them as being confidential. So we don't make the call whether they're confidential or not. We have received an open records request. That contract will be sent to the Attorney General's office, and they will make a decision whether or not it really is something that's confidential or not confidential. And once they've done their ruling, then we dismiss it. We release it. But we don't release contracts when the vendor has marked them as containing confidential information.
Okay.
I got a follow-up. Just a quick follow-up then. So are commissioners allowed to see the amounts? Or is it just being deprived to everybody but our election administrator?
So in this situation, it's being deprived at the person or persons who made an open records request for a document that is marked confidential.
No, but my question is, do they know the amount? I mean, do they see the invoice?
Yes. I'm Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So basically, the citizens are being deprived of this opportunity, but our elected representatives do get to see it? Confirmed?
I didn't look, I don't know what they had access to. I didn't look at the backup.
Yes, you're talking about the dollar amount of the contract?
Well, the actual physical body of the language of the invoice or the, whatever this actually is, we can't see it. It's not a hyperlink for us to see. I'm curious, do you guys get to see
Contract
it?
itself, to see the contract? Is that what you?
Well,
'cause
it's the
amount-
purchase of election upgrade and supplies, whatever that piece of paper is that identifies this number 14 in the amount of a charge of $25,690.04.
Well,
Does
that's what
anybody get to see it?
Yeah, we see it, and
You see it?
that's what I'm going to address when you get finished.
But we have to, if we're going to vote, we have to understand what we're voting on. So yes, we would see some parts of the details because we need to be informed and then, because it's relevant to the functioning of the election office.
Right. Perfect. I do just want to remind you guys, according to the Brazos County organizational chart, the Brazos County voters sit above you. Thank you.
That's right. And we will never forget that. Judge, can I?
Sure, go ahead.
Last week I asked this to be tabled because in the original language it says includes up to 8 days of service. Additional days of service must be purchased separately. And my issue with it at the time was the fact that it says up to 8 days of service. So it could have been 2 days, it could have been 4 days, but all we saw was the total of that was $11,650. So let me tell you what this HART interface sent back to us. And I tell you what, these people are flakier than a buttermilk biscuit. It says here, 8 days which will be billed for actual time spent in transit to the county's office or on site conducting the upgrade, with any partial day spent performing these activities considered a full day for billing purposes. So they added all that stuff, and all we wanted to know was, do we have a real 8 days worth of service here for this $11,650? And then they added all this crap in here about transit time, and what we're going to charge for transit time. We didn't ask for all that. We just asked for a real number of how many days are we paying for and how many days are we getting. And that's why I'm voting against this. I don't know about y'all, but I'm voting against it because they just keep coming back with crazy stuff.
Commissioner, if I may, that is not atypical language to account for the maximum possible cost that the county would incur for that, to make sure that there are anything that they would happen upon whenever they're doing the upgrade, to make sure that they cover their costs. But if they're only here for 2 days, then that's all Ms. Trudy is going to approve the invoice for. That is a maximum not to exceed amount. We would not approve payment for 8 days or 4 days or whatever if they only spend 1 or 2 or whatever it may be.
I understand that, but where I had an issue was that now they've included in this the travel time, and it wasn't in the original a week ago.
It was implied.
You requested additional information, so it's sort of like
Yes,
they
sir.
kind of gave you an itemized list of potential costs.
They were always going to
Up
charge
to-
us for any travel time, any time that their people have to, it's not time that they can bill to other customers or what have you, so.
But that was not in what we saw last week, and that's why I made the motion to table it, and we tabled it.
Yes, sir.
That was not included last week. It is this week.
Because you asked for additional information.
I asked to specify if we were getting a full 8 days worth of work for $11,650.
Within
That's-
that, they gave you the itemized list of what that cost would be. Am I right? Which included travel.
It just seems strange that all of a sudden it comes up that it wasn't in the original language, and now it's in this language, trying to make up for the fact that they lost some from us tabling it and asking for them to be specific about the cost.
Yes, sir.
So-
Charles, to your point, though, Trudy would only approve the amount of days and time they spent working on this in the up to
Yes, sir.
That answers my.
Because this is just a quote, right? This is an estimate.
Yes,
not-
sir. It is not a final bill. It is only an estimate or a quotation for the services to be performed.
Sure.
And we've paid for travel when they've come before, right? That's
the-
been included in the cost when you get an itemized bill?
To the best of my information, yes,
Yes.
knowledge.
But my issue was that they didn't specify that a week ago.
You're correct,
And
Commissioner.
now they're specifying it this week, so
Yes, sir.
that was my whole point.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. Motion passes. Number 15 is approval of request from Purchasing Department to declare a list of surplus property as salvage in accordance with Local Government Code 263-1.152 and authorize destruction or other means of disposal.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion.
I did have a question.
Okay.
Charles, you still here? This says protect 98 information. What is that?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Surplus administration equipment, protect 98 information, and then it has numbers running down. What do we destroy?
May I look at that?
Yeah, I thought you gave us to us.
I have no idea whatsoever. That is a spreadsheet issue. If you want to
Okay.
table this, we will be happy to amend that, correct that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not a problem. We can table it. I just wanted to know what we're, move to table it. So we figure out what we're just doing with.
Yeah, I'll second that move to
I
table.
apologize.
Just
I
get
had no idea what that.
I should have asked you before.
No, that's all right. That's,
Okay.
I should have.
Okay, we've got a motion to table number 15 and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Number 16 is approval of amendment number 1 to contract 25-021 copier maintenance with Xerox Business Solutions to increase the number of machines on the service agreement.
Move approval?
Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion.
I guess we go out for bids on this from time to time, don't we?
Yes.
Okay.
I know we have, I think we,
Yes, sir. We, a number of years ago, we stopped leasing them. We did a cost analysis. It was cheaper to buy the machines and pay for a maintenance contract on them. And so we were able to utilize those machines for a number of years above and beyond. And so whenever we have some on the rollout that are high usage, high number of clicks run through it, or we have a number of service tickets that determine it to be unreliable for continued daily use, we put that on Commissioner's Court, submit it to budget. Commissioner's Court allocates funds, and then we get quotes on those machines for the maintenance contract and the purchase. And the best combination is how we determine who we're going to purchase from.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 17 is approval of contract 25-097 for professional liability insurance for Health District with Landmark American Insurance Company via Alliant Insurance Services for a premium cost of $17,306.85 in accordance with Section 5.6 of the Public Health District Cooperative Agreement. Brazos County is responsible for the cost of all errors and omissions policy.
Move approval?
Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 18 is permission to advertise for RFP CIP 25-571 compensation and benefits study.
Move approval?
Second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So did I get two?
Two.
Two opposal. Motion carries.
Judge, the reason,
Okay.
I don't know why Bentley voted against it, but I'm voting against it because I don't see a mass exodus of our employees running off, and I just wonder, when we have a compensation and benefit study, it always ends up costing the county a lot more money, or any entity as far as that goes, whether it's the ISDs or the cities or private business, it ends up costing them a lot of extra money. And I think this county has been really good about giving increases in pay each year and giving bumps when you go from 5 years to 6 years to 7 years, whatever the case is. The county has been very good about that, and it just scares me when we have a compensation and benefit study, especially when it's made up of people that are employees of the county. So,
And I think the last couple of budget cycles seems like we've either through service or merit given the county employees raises. So I don't see the reason to do this at this particular time and expend additional money to do so.
So if I may deviate, the naming of this that's what it's called, but there are many more components of this solicitation, and HR can probably speak much better than I, but it also has to do with classification of employees, making sure that we have the correct exempt or non-exempt. HR's hiding. Come on, Jennifer. Let them, if I may, let her speak more appropriately to the other components that are contained in this.
Correct. I didn't know if we could still talk since y'all had already voted on it. But to answer some of your questions, we're talking FLSA classification, making sure that the job descriptions are correct and rewritten, the overall structure of all county positions. We have, for example, I know Nina's this is a thorn in her side, administrative assistants across the county are all over the place, and making sure that we have equity. In addition to performance evaluation, a review of all of our benefits, and ensuring that we're competitive across the board as well. So this is all coming from last budget session, in addition to just knowing over the years that overall the county does pay less than our competition, and wanting to make sure that we retain our employees and make sure that they're paid equitably. Sorry, can't say that correctly right now. So, any other questions?
How do we know that our employees are paid less?
Salary surveys. We have been
I'm sorry?
salary surveys. We do
Salary
specific salary surveys depending on a need. Usually myself and Nina will kind of determine which areas we need to look at. We hear from the court if there are concerns. If we do see employees leaving certain departments at a higher rate, we will look into those departments specifically as well.
So what do you do? Contact other county commissioners or
Other counties, other
county
cities,
governments?
correct. And then there are some tools out there as well, salary tools, where they gather data from a larger population and we compare across the board. And we present that to the court so they can see all the different entities, what all of their pay rates are, what are their differences, do they pay more due to tenure, do they pay more for certifications, things like that.
And from my personal perspective, that step group pay scale is very frustrating because you have an opportunity to hire some really good employees, but based on that unusual pay scale from my perspective, it does not, if you have a really good employee, there are factors in terms of their skill set, their qualification, their education, that the pay scale, the way it's currently set from my perspective, does not allow for a person that you want to hire, because we're competing against two cities and the university to get really quality employees to work for the county. And in this in this new environment, I think it makes it difficult for us to either hire and or retain those folks, because the pay scale, group step, is really difficult to manage. That you're not able to reward a person for their educational accomplishment, their skill set, etc. It is only based on step group salary setting, and this is a brand new era, in my opinion, that makes us, as we go into becoming a urban area, it makes it difficult for us, in my opinion, to be competitive, to be able to hire people and compensate them in a way that meets their qualifications.
Correct. We are across the board trying to move away from the group and step chart and move more towards ranges, in addition to not losing sight of all of the other benefits that are very important to our employees. Sorry, Nina, go ahead.
I don't know if the court remembers, 2 years ago we looked at living wages, and so we looked at a group of people that are employed with the county, and they were under living wage, and it was the janitorial crew, and so that we picked certain groups each year, And that specific year, we were looking at that, and we pulled from the school districts, we pulled from the counties, we pulled from the cities, we pulled from the U.S. living wage, and we were several dollars under. We were able to bring those up to the basic living wage of the U.S. Because they were being paid, I think it was $11, and we had to bring them up to about $17. And I couldn't live under $11 an hour, so we want to make sure that we're looking across the board. So every year we look at certain groups. Last year might have been clerks, or this year might be law enforcement. I don't know yet because we do not have the study or the request yet. And so this study will allow us to help group certain ones together, like administrative staff, in order for us to go to a salary range. Instead of having 50 ranges, we might have 10.
So I've asked this question before, but I've not gotten an answer. What does it cost the county when we hire an employee, let's say a janitor, and they stay for 20 years and we have to pay for their insurance and retirement for the rest of their life? What is the cost, average cost of a county employee for us?
We can look into that. We're going to have to gather a whole lot of data points in order to try to find an average, but we can look into that and get back to you on it.
Why is that a problem if you serve the county for 20 years and because, the university, so that's the problem we're up against, the university, some of the new companies that are coming in, the compensation,
So the problem is long-term costs for us, not with our current employees, but when they come every year and ask for more employees, I want to know what I'm obligating future commissioners to pay because we've now hired an additional county employee.
So we no longer provide health insurance for life. 2011, we stopped that.
Okay.
That was on the books, but prior to that, we changed it. If you're a new employee, if you came on since 2011, you will not have your insurance paid for life.
Okay.
And training's going to vary. The cost of employee is going to vary between the departments. Sheriff's office, jail, constables, law enforcement is going to cost more to train and keep that employee versus having a clerk 1, clerk 2, and the district clerk's office or administrative side. And so across the board, it's going to vary between which department it is.
And I absolutely understand all that, but I can tell you at the state, every time we went down to the legislature, we had all those same diversity work groups. They said it costs on average $1 million for the state every time we added another employee because they assumed they were going to work to retirement, they were going to retire and draw retirement. So
Yeah, we can
that's
get
why I want to know
the 7%
what I'm voting for.
Yeah.
So.
We're happy if we keep them 5 years. Longer than that, we're good.
Well, I'm more interested in getting away from the step system as well that we're currently on, and I'm interested in awarding employees on accomplishments, on a job well done, on cross-training others, on spreading their knowledge, and not so much like it was mentioned, we've done 2 increases on the countywide compensation. I'd be much more interested in looking at outstanding performance, those that coach and improve others, those that represent the county well, and having a more targeted approach on who we're giving increased compensation to. So that's this study for me that's appealing.
Absolutely.
I'd like to move away from everybody gets an increase and don't know what their job performance is. The taxpayers at home, none of us get a choice because they all get elevated, but someone that's doing their job well, he or she is a leader in the organization, bringing a lot of value to the taxpayer, to the organization, that is someone I'm interested in looking at additional compensation for. And if this is a tool to identify that, then that's one.
That's absolutely our goal, is to get everyone on a level playing field, make sure everyone at a baseline is paid equitably. I said it right this time. And then we can actually reward for performance, which has been a goal I know of both budget and myself for a very long time now, to get performance evaluations going and to make sure that we have a plan in place to reward our good employees and hopefully keep them a lot longer.
Well, and I will tell you that what I see as the downside with that is that, county government's got, here we've got, I don't remember, 26 elected officials who are their own entities, so we have no control over their performance of their employees or anything. We put the money in their budget and they spread it no matter, and that's part of why the group and step kind of kept, let's say, a district clerk and county clerk or court clerks, a clerk 1 is at this level with the group step, and then clerk 2 and a clerk 3 kind of, it was set up to try to pay those positions what those positions needed, not what, because you've got a real good one here, and they maybe they are worth more, but maybe they need to be at a higher position, a clerk 2 or clerk 3, move them up with them. We don't have any control over that sort of thing with any elected official out there. I mean, we set the position in there, but you know, we don't have any say so about who they give any raises to or anything. Just comment on it.
Judge, if I may, Ed Bull, Chief of Staff. So this is another one of those things that I think that there's been interest, not just from budget or human resources, but also from a lot of individual departments. It's true, I mean, we don't have a mass exodus of people, and as I've always thought, county kind of runs a tight ship in regards to people. Adding new tasks to people does potentially burden those positions moving forward, especially outside scope. I know that risk we constantly keep on heaping additional duties on, but I do know that other departments have an interest in this as well, whether or not it's IT in regards to app admin positions that they're trying to fill, whether or not it's the jail in regards to their detention officers, that we know that there's a shortage there. Even the DA's office in regards to attorneys. I know for SB 22 has been very helpful in regards to salaries, but it's not just salaries, and heaven forbid it comes back as a high number. And honestly, at the end of the day, if it comes back as a high number, you take those people that need to be adjusted, whether or not it is the janitorial service or other employees that need to be adjusted, and you shelf the other ones for later. But we're going to be looking at the retention, which I think that's a big word that has not been thrown out there. But what's going to draw the people into this area and keep them here working for Brazos County? Because that we're competing against everybody, and it's getting harder and harder to fill those positions. Right now, I think we've got 28 positions posted. I don't think that's a true reflection of how many open positions there actually are.
Okay, we've already voted on that one.
Okay.
Okay, we will move on to number 19 is approval of the following committee for RFP CIP 571 compensation and benefits study.
Move to approve.
Did he say?
He moved.
Second.
Second. Motion made, seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 20 is permission to advertise RFP CIP 25-578 Hidden Springs and Stony Brook Culvert Replacement.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 21 is approval of the following committee RFP CIP 25-578 Hidden Springs and Stony Brook Culvert Replacement.
Move for approval A through F.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion.
Yeah, Judge, could we get in the future, maybe, I don't know, recognize a lot of these names. I know some of y'all have been here a lot long, since I'm a new commissioner, and maybe put who they are and what their position is, and just going forward. I mean, I see purchasing, but,
Yeah.
Legal and engineer, but.
I mean, I know
I know
most
you do.
of them, but
That's a good point.
Certainly, we're happy to do that, Commissioner. We'll do that in the future. Bill Hadley is the project manager, if you will, for Road and Bridge. Jimmy LaFleur is the superintendent, general superintendent for Road and Bridge. Jonathan Grisso is the new precinct foreman.
for this precinct, we're
For the
Hidden
precinct.
Springs.
Which precinct is it?
2, I believe.
Okay, 2, okay.
One, yeah, 1, like I said.
I thought that's what I heard.
And then purchasing is a bunch of good-looking folks, legal, and then the county engineer, the engineer for Goodwin Laster Strong is the contracted firm that we have for IDIQ Engineering Services.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. Have we voted on that? Yes, sir. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 22 is tax refund application for the following.
Move to approve A through I.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 23 is Commissioners Court minutes for the following dates.
I move approval, items A through D.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 24 is budget amendments, FY 24-25 budget amendments 16.01 through 16.03.
Move for approval.
Second?
Motion made, seconded, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 25, personnel change status.
Move for approval.
Second?
Motion made, seconded, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. Number 26, payment of claims. Claims to be paid by Brazos County. Claim number 8207707 through 8207837, and claim number 9203374 through claim number 9203425.
Move approval A through B.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None motion carries. We will skip down to number 28, 29, and is acknowledgement of the FY 24-25 budget to actuals by fund as of January 29, 2025, and acknowledgement of the FY 24-25 contingency budget to actuals by fund as of January 29, 2025. Number 30 is juvenile directors to report on detention population.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. We have 29 juveniles in detention, 20 males and 9 females, and we have 39 on electronic monitor. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. 31 is sheriff's report on inmate population. Chief.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. This morning we have 749 inmates total, 636 males, 113 females, and 34 on electronic monitor.
Thank you, Chief. Next is 32 is announcement of interest items and possible future agenda topics.
I wanted to congratulate St. Joseph Catholic Schools on 130 years of education in Brazos County. We're celebrating that. In addition, I want to shout out to all the Boy Scouts of America, Scouts USA that came out Saturday before last. We put out informational packets on doors all over the county. This last Saturday we went and picked up donations of food for the Brazos Valley Food Bank, picked up several tons of food, which was actually kind of a light year. So next year I'll be shouting it out ahead of time and challenging everyone on the Commissioner's Court to bring some food in and have even a better year. There's no shortage of people that are hungry here in Brazos Valley. The Brazos Valley Food Bank supports 6 counties in the Brazos Valley, and the Scouting for Food is a big part of something they count on each year for food, for the food bank. And I just realized my microphone's not on.
All right. I would like to mention that Pam Robinson, our Veteran Service Officer, won the Ford Chaplain Humanitarian Award.
That's awesome.
For her public service. I mean, she's got a great heart. She's done a great job and well deserving of the medal. So,
congrats to her. That's a big deal.
Yes. Anything else? We will move back up to number 27, convene an executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.0725 to deliberate business financial issues related to a contract being negotiated. B is Texas Government Code 551.072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. And C, Texas Government Code 551.074 to discuss the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, and duties of the Health and Wellness Clinic Department Head. And we'll take that one first. Of course, the Commissioner's Court. The contract we got to vote on? Okay, all right.
Yes, sir. So item number A, I have provided a letter to the court that's filed with the court with my opinion that negotiating an open meeting would be a detriment to the county's ability to negotiate this contract, and ask that you unanimously approve going into executive session on that issue.
Okay, so I'll need a motion and a second for that, and then.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. It needs to be unanimous. It is, okay. And then we'll take C first, and I'll need, of course, the commissioners and Aubrey and, who all needs to be in there? That's the employment, personnel? Okay. And the time is 12 o'clock.
Thank you.
All right.
It's like you walk into the refrigerator.
We are coming out of executive session. It's 1:27, and there's no action to be taken. We're 121.
121,
Okay.
yeah.
Thought I saw a line on top. 121. All right. Next item is to adjourn.